Hi everybody, I hope everybody's doing great. I am continuing to just read. And I found something really interesting because part of my point of my research is to kind of show how complicated slavery was in the Dominican Republic at the time that slavery existed. Because a lot of people think of it as like a black and white institution. Like, literally, it was like black against whites. It didn't work that way. And also, in the Dominican Republic, slavery was a bit different. So I want to show you here, this is a marriage certificate. This is the book from 1809. Y nos dice Suertes del Ceibo. Y dice, en la villa de Santa Cruz del Ceibo, en 20 días del mes de febrero de 1809 años. So this means in Latin that he married solemnly a Bartolomé de Coca, esclavo de Don Antonio de Coca, con María José Zorrillas, hija natural de María Zorrillas, Lobos. So if we go to the caste system, remember that the Spanish had a very intricate and complicated caste system. Each caste had its privileges and responsibilities. We go right here, Lobo. So in order to get a child that was considered a Lobo, one parent had to be indigenous and one parent had to be tornatras, this is a very racist term. It comes from here. So un tornatar atrás was the Spanish with un albino, an albino being a Spanish with un morisco, a morisco being a Spanish with un mulatto being someone who's Spanish and negro. Okay? So in order to get a lobo, the person had to have indigenous blood and basically a mix of black and Spanish, right? So that being said, it describes them as lobos, meaning that they had a full-blooded indigenous parent. And this was in 1809, meaning that even by 1809, they still considered some people to be full-blooded Tainos. And I know that some people are going to say, a Lobo could also have a parent that was a full-blooded Mayan, some other indigenous group, and that is also true. But what makes this even more amazing is that if you continue reading this marriage certificate, it says, y no habiéndose hurtado impedimento alguno, yo en infrascrito cura rector y vicario los casé. So in Española, right, at this time, in 1809, they did not consider it an impediment to be a slave. You could marry whoever you wanted, which was very different from how slavery was practiced in the English colonies and in other areas. Slaves were not allowed to marry outside of other slaves. And I know some people will be like, well, I mean, this is just like a one-off thing, right? No. This marriage certificate is right after this marriage certificate. Okay, of this one being Bartolomé de Coca, right? Esclavo de Antonio. You see it there, esclavo de Antonio de Coca. This one is another one of his slaves getting married. Okay, and says very similar, the date 1809. Y él está casando solemnemente a Jorge de Coca, esclavo del mismo Don Antonio de Coca, con Ana Núñez, hija legítima de Pedro Núñez y de Francisca Zorrillas, Lobos, another group who had one of these two parents were considered indigenous. He says that all of them belong to his church, todos mis parroquianos, y no habiendo otra vez ningún impedimento, los casó. So this is very different than what we imagine slavery would be on the island. Slaves were not slaves forever. Like I've mentioned before, in the Dominican Republic, they had more of a system of contracts for slaves, where the person was a slave for a certain number of years. They would do the time, and then after their contract, they were usually given land and a start of a new life.